When the Not Too Young to Run Act was passed in 2018, it was hailed as a landmark win for youth inclusion in Nigerian politics. By lowering the age requirements to contest election, it aimed to give young people a real shot at power. But has the law lived up to the promise? In this episode of Untangle, we unpack the legal changes, the motivations behind the act, and the realities young candidates face today. From constitutional reforms to the cost of running for office, we explore whether youth participation has truly become easier or if old barriers still remain. Welcome to Untangle. I am Amadine Obere. Welcome back. Now we've been joined by a legal practitioner, Hillary Azegba, Esquire. He joins us to break down this act. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Amadi. Thank you so much.
Good to have you.
Yeah, the previous man.
All right, so let's go straight into it. What exactly did the Not Too Young to Run Act change in the Constitution?
Okay, Not Too Young to Run Act, actually, which came into force, that was in 2018. It changed a whole lot of things in the Constitution with regards to age restrictions which have been embedded in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly Section 65, Section 106, 131, and I think 177 of the Constitution, which puts age restrictions for those that are aspiring to go into office, like for the office of the President, Governor, Senate, House of Representatives, and House of Assembly.
All right. Yeah. So what are some of the key provisions? What are the age, now that are...
before in the Constitution, it used to be, that's for the President, Office of the President, that's, okay, let me start from House of Assembly. House of Assembly, that's 30. The House of Representatives...
It used to be, or it is now?
Because of the Not Too Young to Run Act now, so it has amended those sections.
Okay.
Yes, so it used to be 35, 30, 40, 35, 35, 30. President, for the office of the President, 40. For the office of the Governor, 35. Then for the office of the Senate, 35. House of Rep and House of Assembly, 30. But because of the Not Too Young to Run Act that has been enacted, it has now reduced to 30, 35.
For presidency?
For presidency, 30 for Governor and Senate, 25 for House of Representatives and House of Assembly.
That's interesting. So are these the offices?
You can run for an office now. I don't know how you're doing.
Well, yeah. Some of them are qualified.
Okay.
So are these the only offices that are affected? What about others, councillors, other political offices? Are they affected?
Actually, it's one of the assumptions because it didn't mention something in relation to that. Just these offices are mentioned. That's why particularly these sections I mentioned in the Constitution, we didn't even make any mention of the council election, like chairmanship and councillorship. Yes, just stopped at the state level.
All right. So it might seem obvious, but sometimes people still need to know what problem exactly did this act solve?
It solved, in fact, the major problem that this act solved is the problem of these restrictions where young people were sidelined. Like, it was difficult for them to participate fully in governance because you have these age restrictions. Because you are not up to the required statutory age, you cannot run for the board. Now, that restriction has been eroded. So that's the major problem that it's Not Too Young to Run Act has solved.
All right. So basically,
so it has brought inclusion in governance where youth can now participate in governance.
So basically, someone who's about 35 plus can wake up and decide they want to run for president.
Yes.
And they're not held back.
Why not?
But does the act really guarantee that freedom, or are there still some restrictions here and there?
Okay, this is what I would say. The act does not guarantee candidacy. I think we should differentiate between these. It does not guarantee candidacy, but it empowers young people to run for an office. After all, there are other restrictions, like we have what we call party nomination form. If as somebody who's going into politics, you must be a member of a political party You must have been paying your party dues, and all of those must be sponsored by your party. So you cannot just wake up and then it's still a problem actually. Yes, because you need money to buy that thing. It's not just you being 35 or being 25 or being 30. So at least you must have some other things and other qualifications as well. Not because you are 30 and then you don't have the qualification, like which is the minimum in Nigeria is SSE. So school starts.
But so are there any other constitutional restrictions that maybe prevent young persons from participating fully in politics?
Apart from this major thing I mentioned, other ones apply to everybody. Like if you have criminal record, of course, even if you are 30 or 70, or you cannot participate. So, but apart from this major thing, there's no other restrictions. Young people can now go into governance, run for offices, and if they win, good.
So what are some of the legal requirements a young person must meet, before they can actually contest?
Okay, just like the one I mentioned earlier, you must be a citizen of Nigeria. Okay, yes, first and foremost, very important. You must be a citizen of Nigeria, and then you must have attained the required statutory age, like I said, and then you must have the basic qualification, which the minimum qualification is SSCE. Although we know in Nigeria, most of the people actually coming out of office, most of them are graduates, diploma holders, and but SSCE. After all, our good president of blessed memory who just passed presented the SSCE certificate, and it was allowed. And
all right, that's fair enough. I think one of the other things people look at is the types of candidacy. Is there any provision for independent candidates, or is it something where you must find a way into a party? Because people feel as though, take for instance, you are a young person who is social media savvy and you've built a following. They want the impression where they can just come out on their own and say, vote for me, and they get voted for without having to go through party politics and primaries and all of that. So does that avenue even exist in the first place?
Okay, it's like I said, one of those wrong assumptions, and at the same time also it's one of the arguments around this not too young to run act, because it didn't erode that aspect of the candidate being sponsored by a political party. So independent candidates, we don't have something like that in our constitution. So I think section 221 is still in place. There's no room for independent candidates. So there's no room for that. We have it, I think, in the United States and some other jurisdictions, but it's not, I think, and that's one of the major arguments around this act, actually. They should have come up with something like that, because most of these young people, most of them are capable and qualified to, go into office. But they, for instance, now, they do not have money to go into a political party. And where the major thing is. It's not just about belonging to a political party. There are other things that follow. The major election in political party is not, the major election are two types sometimes. It's not just the general election. You see that party nomination, that's where things, delegates coming to vote. We've heard stories where pounds and dollars, are transferring hands and a lot of things. How many young people will be able to afford this thing? It's not possible. How many young people can afford such amount of money? So it's a problem. But had it been, if there was something like that independent candidacy in our constitution or in this newly elected acts, then it would have made more sense, so that people you don't need to be cowed, by the godfathers, so-called, before you can now be nominated to run for an office.
So I think you've really hit on an important point here, which is that the limitations that still exist,
yes,
especially economically speaking, if you want to measure the average income or the average earnings of that young age compared to perhaps older ones who are more established, you might see a large disparity, which can still lead to inequalities when it comes to political participation. So that being said, the Electoral Act was also meant to revolutionize the electoral system. Are there any provisions in there that has affected or helped or impacted the Not Too Young to Run Act?
Okay. Yes, to an extent, in the Electoral Act, there's a provision for, I think, particularly Section 84, if I'm not mistaken, of the last Electoral Act, where it talked about the electoral umpire monitoring the internal affair of the party, like maybe monitoring the election, that's the party primary elections, and then I think it affords the young people also opportunity to also maybe aid their grievances, maybe even if they get sidelined along the way. You understand? So the for instance, the electoral umpire, the INEC coming into play to monitor what goes on in the party, it helps actually to give the people a kind of safe landing. But I think it still has some problems actually.
Yeah,
there are still some problems with regards to the electoral act. That's why a lot of people are now clamoring for reform of our electoral law. That's electoral reform. It's because the young people still, at the end of the day, they still get kicked out of the game because of other things that, like the aspect of party nomination form I talked about. Also, what happens to election spending, like the money that politicians spend during the election campaign, that's campaign funding. So I also think that there should be an amendment where the Electoral Act will monitor how money is being spent during campaigns and elections. It will help the young people to, stand a better opportunity of being elected into office. Because don't forget, there's still a huge gap between what I call, how will I put it? It's not just about contesting. How about winning? How many people win election? How many young people win election at the end of the day? Yeah. So that gap is still there. So there needs to be a bridge.
The limits are revised, and it's now presidential candidates 1 billion and governorship candidates 200 million. So when we talk about these numbers, and then we talk about a 35-year-old having at least 1 billion or thereabouts to spend.
Amadi, let me ask you, how many young people can afford such amount of money? Apart from the fact that probably you are coming from a rich home, maybe your father was a one-time governor of a state or a business mogul. Maybe your father is a Dan Tata or Innocent or Femi Otedola. It's not easy to afford 1 billion naira. And we have young people who are capable, who can do this thing. You don't expect the person to... and we're living in the country where it's not like we're in an advanced world where you come off an office, they see you're credible, people will be donating money.
Yeah.
How many people make donations? You now discover that even if a young person sometimes comes out, the people who will donate or sponsor the campaigns are godfathers. And am I saying that it's bad for somebody who is wealthy to sponsor somebody's campaign or to... No, it's not wrong in it, but the motive behind it, that's the problem. And all of us will know that in this part of the world, at the end of the day, they dictate to you what happens, the people that you give contract, a lot of things. So you now see that it's still a problem, actually.
Indeed.
So that money is too much. The money should be reduced. That's why we are calling for electoral reform. It's very important for these things to be reduced.
All right. Please hold that thought, Barrister Hillary. We will take more into the solutions, recommendations, and how things work elsewhere on a global scene, so we can really break this down and get the best way that Nigerian youths can make the most out of the Not Too Young to Run Act.
Okay.
So we'll go on a break now. When we return, we'll delve into the second aspect of the program. Don't go anywhere.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
celebrate, and preserve the arts and culture that define us. All right, welcome back. Before we delve now into further aspects of solutions and how we can better utilize the Not Too Young to Run Act, let's still talk about some potential provisions in there. Are there penalties for political parties who do not abide by this? For instance, let's say, hypothetically speaking, a candidate who's very young somehow has the funds to buy a nomination form and they are not allowed to. What happens?
Okay, if I get you correctly, and maybe they are not allowed to run, or
Yes.
Okay, that's why I said earlier. Actually, there are okay. Should I use the word penalty? Yes, because the person can actually seek redress. Number one, the party, there's an appeal panel at the party level. The person can go to the appeal panel actually and say, no, I'm not happy with what happened actually, and let's look at it again. And or the person, they will have what we call a pre-election litigation, where you can actually seek redress in the courts, I think federal high courts, and at the same time, even after the general election, of course, you can still seek redress. But there are challenges anyway, actually.
So, in your opinion, how would you rate the impact this act has had? 2018 to 2025, that's about how many years? That's 7 years or thereabouts?
From 2018 to that's 7 years. Yes, 7 years.
So
Wow.
what would you say has been the impact so far?
Okay, considerably, it has been, in fact, quite interesting because I remember, especially with regards to what happened in 2023, a lot of young persons came out. Particularly, I'm from Enugu State, and I was fully involved in the electionary campaign, and a lot of young people came out and they won election at the House of Rep level, House of Assembly, and even though it's not mentioned in the act, at the council level, most of the local government chairmen in Enugu State, now most of them are young people, young people. So I remember that time, that was in 2023, I did campaign for some persons and volunteer jobs, and most of them won. Young people in governance.
So it has encouraged people to...
Yeah, it has encouraged a lot of people to come out. And even this 2027, a lot of other young people are still, warming up to... Yeah, so it has really helped, young people to get closer to power and governance. Okay. Yes.
There is a concern people have that even though we want to open things for young people, there's a worry that they might not be experienced enough, they might not know enough. Are there any safeguards to that?
I think there are safeguards. And number one, don't forget what I mentioned earlier. The qualification is SSC, and then so most of these young people coming out, like I say, most of them are even graduates. They are graduates. They've gone to school, done one business or the other, and they are coming with experience. I think it's only in this part of the world that they call somebody who is 30 a small boy. Whereas Emmanuel Macron became president of France at the very young age, I think 29. So Barack Obama, when did he go to the Senate? A lot of other people like that. Bill Clinton, when did he start as Attorney General in Arkansas and became the governor of Arkansas, as in the US? Many other people like that.
So we shouldn't underrate
young people. I say it it's only in this part of the world that will see somebody who is 30 or even 25 and call the person a small child. Probably because we don't start on time. And our system is built in a way that it delays us. We go to school, strike here and there. You take you sometimes 8 years or even 10 to finish a course that's not supposed to take up to or more than 5 years. Or then with all the delay. No, I'm digressing a bit, but then education is powerful. And I remember Barack Obama, when he was the president, he came to South Africa. I was talking to young African leaders. He said that there are a lot of problems in Africa because he feels that the African leaders are not doing enough to get people back to school or to empower the education sector, that even in the US, he's pushing for early child education so that people will go to school, graduate from college on time. Somebody who has gone to school and come out to learn one skill or the other, run one enterprise or the other, you don't see that person going into crime, for instance. So what am I saying? So one of the safeguards actually is the qualification there. And also, don't forget that the voters also have the discretion to say, okay, this person is experienced or this person is not experienced, and we're not going to vote for this person. So these are the necessary safeguards that help to choose young people who are credible.
Yes. So what would you say is perhaps some of the biggest misconception around the Not Too Young to Run Act and people's believe that young persons can run?
Okay, one of the biggest misconceptions you said, actually, which sometimes I even call it assumption, is what I've mentioned earlier, which is that that the act guarantees candidacy. No, it does not guarantee candidacy. You must belong to a political party, pick a party nomination form, and then be sponsored by your political party. Another assumption, actually, like I mentioned earlier, which we asked actually, at the council level, it does not apply, I think, because it's the state law that governs. I don't know. I think I need to take time because with the new law that the state will not be will not be conducting a council election. I think maybe something significant might come up or out of it to guarantee that young people will now be qualified, or maybe even at the age of 20, for instance, to run for office as councillors or council chairmen. Yes. So okay. That translates us to what I now also call conversion rates. I've talked about it earlier. So because it does not guarantee candidacy, at the end of the day, young people come out and the conversion rate is low. Conversion from being a candidate or maybe to being the winner of election. So it's low.
All right. So let's go back to what I said before about possible solutions. Are there any recommendations you think that could make this act work better? For instance, we mentioned the issue of spending.
Oh, yeah.
Is it an issue of limiting the spending or perhaps providing avenues that ensures, this very robust system of donations and funding and all of that? Because I understand even in other parts of the world, those things are monitored closely.
Yeah.
So what recommendations do you think, things that could be added that will, at the end of the day, give young people even more of a chance than what we're currently seeing?
Okay, thank you so much, Amadine. And then you've, in fact, mentioned it. Cutting spending, election funding should be it should be cut drastically because it's giving power to these old folks, a lot of them, godfathers, to still be at top of the game. Like, it does not make sense. You see billions being doled out, even from the party primaries to the general election, and it does not make sense. And also, what I've said earlier with regards to independent candidates, I think that should be implemented too. Yeah, so that if you get to a party and then some of the big wags want to, scare you away, you just go, and then there are people who are popular in the country who can move people, who can influence things, but they don't even have the fund. Don't have the funds. So by the time it's included in the act, you now see that somebody can just, as an independent, run one office, and most persons will win. They will.
Right. Is there anything you can tell us about how this perhaps similar works across the world when it comes to young people and contesting and being part of the political system?
Okay.
Lessons we can learn.
Okay. Yes. If you look at other jurisdictions, and then even in France, I think in the lower chamber is like people, it should be France or one European country like that. At the age of 18, you can go into the lower chamber as a parliamentarian. Yes, in other countries, even in some countries in the Arab world, in fact, especially Tunisia, after the Arab Spring, whatever, they brought their distance down to encourage young people to aspire to go into governance. And so many other countries, Sweden and a whole lot of other countries like that, the UK, young people, look at what our dear sister Kemi Badenoch is doing in the UK. So as a opposition leader, she's a young woman. When did she start? And in this part of the world, and that also brings me to not just inclusion of the youth, young people, but also women. Yes, very, very important as well. Very, very important. That's why I was happy in the time of Goodluck when he came up with the affirmative action to include women in governance. So that would also help, actually. So young people in other jurisdictions are going into governance. Even if you go to the United States, you see young senators at the state levels, and they are making impacts.
Thank you so much, Hillary.
We're not different.
Indeed. Truly, we're not different. We can't do as well as others have. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
That's our round of the program for today. If you're a young person out there, perhaps even if you're an older person, you do now get more insight as to how the Not Too Young to Run Act can impact on political participation for youths and young people out there. So join us next time on Untangle, where we break down issues for simple understanding. Bye for now. I am Amadine Ogbewe.